From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay,
that it was an eye-opening, really.
A new way to bust through that pesky frangipan. A closer look at the damage done by Hurricane Michael. And we take a look at two big reports from USDA.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon in for Clinton Griffiths. USDA says farmers are still poised to produce the highest yield on record for both corn and soybeans this year, despite the department lowering its corn yield estimate. According to the department's crop production report, corn production is slated at 14.8 billion bushels, which could be the second highest on record. It's down slightly from the September forecast, but up 1% from last year. USDA decreasing its average corn yield forecast to 180.7 bushels per acre, down 0.6 bushels from the September report, but up 4.1 bushels from 2017. The updated yield was below trade guesses. Still, if achieved, it will be the largest yield on record. USDA says U.S. soybean production is at a record amount of 4.69 billion bushels, down slightly from September, but up 6% from last year. The department forecasts soybean yields to tally 53.1 bushels per acre, up 0.3 bushels from last month, and up 3.8 bushels from last year. The yield is below the trade guess. However, if realized, it will also be the highest yield recorded for U.S. soybean farmers.
One thing that should be mentioned here, we've had some nasty weather in a lot of areas of the country during the last several weeks, and I don't think that that was necessarily accounted for in this report in regard to production. So will we see some of this nasty weather and the effects that it's had on the crop accounted for in, say, the November report or the December report? That remains to be seen.
Checking the supply and demand report also released today. Corn, soybean, and wheat ending stocks are all larger from just a month ago. According to the WASDE report, U.S. corn ending stocks for the 2018-2019 marketing year are rising to 1.813 billion bushels, 39 million bushels higher than the previous month, but below trade expectations. USDA also increasing its projections for new crop corn exports by 75 million bushels. Soybean stocks also rising to 885 million bushels, an increase of 40 million from September, but below trade guesses. Also, wheat ending stocks increasing as well to 956 million bushels, up from 935 million just last month, and it's also above trade guesses.
But in the fine print here, USDA reduced their harvested acreage projection by 600,000, and when you do that math, the production number month over month actually declined. So similarly, the carryout number in the beans was not quite as high as expected at 885 million, but still above the 845 from last month.
Tyne Morgan is at Iowa State getting ready for the College Roadshow edition of U.S. Farm Report. Today she spoke with an ag extension economist about these new reports and what they're seeing in Iowa.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy. Here now with Chad Hart, Iowa State University extension economist. He's had a chance to read through the report. You know, Chad, a bullish reaction, but it really wasn't a bullish report from USDA.
No, I would say the argument was here is that this crop or these crops, you know, they're big, but we were expecting them to get even larger, you know, sort of that rule that big crops get bigger.
Right.
Well, in this case, we watched them shrink back a little bit on the corn side. Yeah, the soybean crop grew, but not as much as we expected there, so that's why the bullish reaction.
We're hearing some feedback from farmers in Iowa who are saying, you know what, now we're seeing mold in the field with soybeans. We're seeing soybean actually drop out of the pods, and we're losing yield. Do you think it's that widespread? Do you think that even shows up in a USDA report at any point?
Well, it's not going to show up in the yield number, because when you're looking at USDA's yield, what they do is they estimate what is the yield in the field. So if you will, that yield is still there. Where it shows up in the balance sheet is in the residual. The harvest loss goes in there. But that is a concern that we're having here in Iowa, but at the same time too, we're still actually ahead on our corn harvest. We're behind on soybeans, but the idea is you give us some dry weather, we can catch up in a hurry.
All right, so you're not really that worried about how that yield loss is going to show up in the national number?
No, not yet.
All right, Chad, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Reporting from Iowa State University here in Ames, Iowa, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay.
We won't be getting a monthly crop report from China for now. Reuters is reporting China's agriculture ministry has canceled the release of the report. Chinese officials say it's due to a technical problem. It's called the Chinese Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates Report. It provides the ministry's monthly forecast for outputs, inputs, and consumption. It gives perspective on the major crops, including soybeans, corn, and sugar. A judge is still deciding on whether to uphold a jury's $289 million judgment against agribusiness giant Monsanto. As you know, Monsanto is now owned by Bayer. A San Francisco judge ending a 2-hour hearing on Wednesday without making a formal ruling. Earlier in the day, she issued a tentative ruling saying she intended to toss out the jury's punitive damage award and schedule a new trial. The judge also suggested she may reduce the rest of the award by $31 million. That's if she upholds the jury's decision that the weed killer Roundup caused Dwayne Johnson's cancer. Search and rescue teams continue to work in the Florida Panhandle, looking for people who rode out Hurricane Michael. Just look at the damage in Mexico Beach, Florida. Michael is the third most powerful hurricane to hit the U.S. mainland in history. As the storm marches on, in Georgia, there is concern the storm will ravage the state's peanut, pecan, and cotton crops. And we've been keeping you updated on a farmer in Alabama named Timothy. He raced to bring in what he could of his cotton and peanut crop ahead of Michael. He shared these pictures with us. He says he's expecting almost a total loss on his cotton. He believes the peanuts weathered a little better. The first significant snow of the season hit portions of North Dakota. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more in today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Betsy. This may have brought harvest time to a standstill for some people. Check out all the snow in eastern North Dakota. This photo sent in to us from Carrie Baldwin. Parts of the area seeing a foot of snow, and it's a heavy wet snow that's making things difficult. Now, taking a look at the wind speed forecast, the remnants of Sergio bringing some wind into western Mexico. Parts of the East Coast, the remnants of Michael. And then you can see Montana turning windier as we head through the day. And heading into the day tomorrow, we're going to see the wind spreading into the Dakotas, central portions of Texas from the remnants of Sergio, and that wind in the northern plains just continues to expand. It's going to be a pretty windy afternoon across the northern tier of states. We'll have your forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Betsy?
Thanks, Mike. Well, it can be like busting through concrete, but researchers think they found a way to bust through Frangipan that's ahead in the country. A bit of a rally today following the latest crop production report. Let's head to the floor of the CME.
The soybean market, it's still a little bit unclear. 850 to 853, obviously very psychologically significant, but very technically significant as well. If the bulls can defend this level as we round out the week, potentially they have a chance to break out above resistance. The resistance pocket we're looking at 870 to 875. This is the recent top end of the range, as well as a key retracement. If we get a closeout above here, I wouldn't be surprised to see funds buy back some of their shorts and accelerate this market towards $9.
Keeping watch on commodity prices is easy with our phones and computers. But can that information at your fingertips be too much of a good thing? Clinton Griffiths joins us back at the Agribusiness Desk.
Kevin Dooling, Katie Investors, are our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Kevin, as we watch markets, and we, like you, we watch these things all the time, and we're always trying to keep an eye out for trends. And you say there's a couple of things that you've been keeping your eye on.
Right. There's a couple important things that the marketplace is changing. The markets always evolve. I learned this stuff 20 plus years ago, and what I was focusing on learning back then is completely irrelevant now. So the computer trade has completely changed. Right. Everything has changed. For example, President Trump sent out a tweet 3-4 weeks ago that he thought the dollar was too strong. Okay, the dollar immediately dropped 2.5% the next 2 days, based strictly of that tweet. Had no fundamental backing, and and so if you're in that market and you're always going to be hit with these random events. I mean, the computers trade headlines, they trade weather forecasts, and they trade reports. That's it. They don't distinguish between basis and so. The other concerning thing is this relationship trade that the CME has gotten into now.
Interesting.
And so they've set it up to where you can establish relationships with the two entities can establish a relationship and trade outside of the main electronic block. So therefore, we won't see the trade or even know it exists until it's done. And that's a big negative for producers because they're not going to be big enough to establish these relationships. They'll most likely be the ones paying for some of these trades. So that's a trend. To me, you know, what does it mean in the long run? I'm just putting a much bigger emphasis on the cash market position of producers than I am futures. I don't want to be tied to the futures as much as I used to. Like I say, from the
and
random
that's different
tweets.
than what we've always talked about,
right?
right? Using the futures
I'm still
as a tool.
use it. I'm still going to use it. I'm still going to put my hedges on, if I can get profitable numbers and whatnot, But as far as like reownership, I mean, the cash market is where it's at in certain cases, and that's going to be, I'm putting more emphasis on the cash structure than the futures. They just right now are really turbulent. So
interesting. Oh, that's interesting stuff. Appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a couple of minutes.
For a free 2-month sample of Kevin's market analysis, or if you have a question of any kind, call 541-980-4554 or email kdinvestors@gmail.com.
Your next piece of equipment is on machinerypete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on machinerypete.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, we've seen it all in the Corn Belt, from snow to rain, even too much flooding. What else can we expect, especially when you look at this drought monitor and see there's not very much of it in drought?
No, we don't have to worry about drought across the Corn Belt, but we do have to worry about all the moisture. But we are getting into a drier weather pattern, which is good. But it's the western areas that still have to be a little bit concerned. You can see the Four Corner region, Oregon, Southern California, going back 4 weeks. We really have seen a continued improvement in the drought monitor, but like we said, that's not an issue at all in the middle of the country. It really is too much moisture in places, but as we've gone through the past 4 weeks, you can see how a lot of the dry areas have been helped a lot. But it's too wet in places. But out west, this will still be a concern as we head toward winter and into next year if we don't get some moisture in those areas. Lots of systems out there this morning. We have the remnants of Michael just moving off the East Coast. Sergio may still be a tropical storm as we start this program, but as we head through the next 24 hours, it'll just be the remnants of Sergio moving through those areas. Weak system in the middle of the country, spreading more showers. This will not last long. It won't be nearly as heavy as some of the recent systems, but it'll be moving into the Ohio Valley, central Mississippi Valley as we head through the day today. A little bit of snow flying in the northern Great Lakes, another system coming in to the northern plains and Montana. You can see as we head into the day tomorrow, the remnants of Sergio spreading some pretty heavy tropical rains across portions of New Mexico and northwest Texas. A little bit of rain mixed with snow in the higher elevations of the central Appalachians this morning. Then as we head through the afternoon, remnants of Sergio moving into Arkansas. And then you can see just not a lot of moisture with this cold front here, but some lingering showers in the southwest, a little bit of snow parts of the northern plains. Now, taking a look at the precipitation estimate past 24 hours, we've still seen some very heavy amounts from the remnants of Michael moving off the East Coast. Not much more from that. Heading in through the next 36 hours, you can really pick out the track of Sergio there moving across the southwest into portions of Texas and Oklahoma as we head through the next 36 hours. South Florida getting some scattered moisture as well. Snowfall amounts over the next 36 hours, generally the higher elevations out west. Not too much in the plains. There's a pretty good system moving through the southern and eastern portions of Canada. High temperatures this afternoon, a lot different than we've seen. Lots of 40s showing up. Northern and central plains, 70s and 80s have been shoved all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Low temperatures tonight going to drop below freezing in parts of the northern Mississippi Valley, but you can see generally middle 30s there. Only 50s in the southeast and lots of 40s once again tomorrow, even some 30s showing up in the northern plains states there. Jet stream showing more troughs digging in as we head through the weekend for the Great Lakes in the northeast. Big ridge builds as we head into next week out west. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Austin, Nevada, first of all, sunny, pleasantly cool, high of 59 degrees. Little Rock, Arkansas, partly sunny, an afternoon shower in some areas, high of 61. And State College, PA, breezy and cool, a mixture of sunshine and clouds, afternoon high around 52.
Are reds a problem in your field? What that could mean for your corn crop coming up in Farm Journal College.
Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture.
Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Corn stalks starting to lean? Well, it could have something to do with the ruts in the field and why you may want to consider bringing that corn in this week's Farm Journal College.
It's a tough one. Again, as you're in a no-till, strip-till situation, usually your ground is firmer, so you can go when guys in conventional tillage are going to cut ruts. But then you get a year like this where it looks like we're going to cut ruts no matter where we go, strip-till, no-till, or whatever. And the crop or the harvest has to come first. So as you see a crop that's in this condition, it's going down worse each day, this thing's going to hit the ground. If we let it, we have to go. So there's way too much loss here if we let this corn hit the ground, and too much hassle to try to pick it up. And we could spend days on an 80-acre field while other corn falls down. So a situation we have to stay ahead of it. We got to be doing our scouting and decide this field's got to come out. Even though the soil conditions aren't right, and we know today we're going to cut ruts, this field's got to come out. So you're going to cut those ruts, realizing that you're taking yourself out of no-till, you're taking yourself out of strip-till, because you're going to have to fix those ruts. But if we lose 50, 60, and sometimes 100 bushel to the acre because we can't get underneath it, and this is going over right at the ground line, so if this goes all the way down, they're just hard to pick it up. You're probably going to get 50 to 75% loss in some parts of the field, and maybe 10% in the other. But as you're doing your scouting, you're going to find those fields that are standing and can wait. You're going to wait for those, but something like this, you just have to go. There's just no way around it. The yield is too important to the end result to stay too focused on, I got to keep my ruts out of the field. Well, we got to take this crop and we're going to fix the ruts later.
Coming up, a possible breakthrough is something that's pretty hard to break through. Frangipan next in the country.
In the Country, sponsored by the all-new Kubota Sidekick, a utility vehicle that lets you climb more, cover more, tow more, and enjoy more. Visit KubotaUSA.com.
It's a problem many farmers face, breaking through the frangipan. It's a cement-like layer in the soil. Now a team of scientists at the University of Kentucky may have made a breakthrough. As Jeff Franklin reports, this discovery could increase yields and the bottom line.
This pit was dug to show participants who came to the Frangipan Field Day at UK's Research and Education Center the average depth of the Frangipan beneath the topsoil. Typically 20 to 24 inches, the Frangipan is a cement-like layer that creates shallow soils with limited yield potential due to low water holding capacity. Soil scientists in the UK College of Agriculture, Food and Environment found that annual ryegrass broke down the Frangipan in laboratory, greenhouse, and field studies the past 6 years.
We show the people that we have different ways to do it, but annual ryegrass is the best and best practical way we have right now, so we're concentrating on that. So we hope to show them this is something now ready for you to use.
A lot of people for many years have tried to do something, either with chemical amendments or with mechanical plowing, through the Frangipan, and nothing really showed any promise. This was the first time that it was an eye-opening, really.
People attending the field day also learned about potential yield increase from annual ryegrass, ways to incorporate it and control it. Producers already growing annual ryegrass on their Frangipan soils, like Dave Fisher, an Indiana beef producer, says he's seen the results on his farm.
But at the same time, I had noticed that these fields seem to not dry out as fast, both as what they used to, but as well as I compare it to our neighbor fields. It just seemed like we were hanging in there a lot longer during drought periods.
Lloyd Murdoch says there are more than 50 million acres of Frangipan soils in the United States. And for him, who has been a soil scientist for more than 45 years, says it's some of the most exciting research he's ever been involved with.
Well, I wouldn't be interested in it if it didn't help people. That's number one. And number two is when you do something that few or no other people have ever done before, it is really exciting. It's something that makes you want to wake up in the morning and go get your cup of coffee and take off to work.
From the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, I'm Jeff Franklin reporting.
Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.